Alan Ritchson versus Tom Cruise. The 8 biggest Jack Reacher differences. When Lee Child's Jack Reacher finally hit the big screen, the casting choices immediately became the talk of fan forums, debates, and countless internet threads. In 2012, Tom Cruise donned the role of the nomadic ex-military cop in Jack Reacher. Then, in 2022, Alan Ritchson stepped into the role for Amazon Prime series adaptation, bringing a new energy to the iconic character. While both portrayals share the same story DNA, their approaches, appearances, and philosophies are wildly different. Here are the 8 biggest differences between Alan Ritchson's and Tom Cruise's Jack Reacher. 1. Physical presence. Size matters. Perhaps the most glaring difference fans noticed immediately is height and build. In the novels, Reacher is famously massive, 6'5", with a formidable soldier's physique. Tom Cruise, at 5'7", is a master of charisma but could never naturally replicate the towering, intimidating figure fans imagined. Alan Ritchson, a former athlete and model, perfectly embodies Reacher's physical stature. His broad shoulders, towering height, and muscular build create an imposing presence that makes the action sequences and fight scenes feel authentic. When Ritchson walks into a room, there's no question that he's a man who could disarm anyone, and fans love that accuracy. Cruise's Reacher relied more on style and technique. Through camera angles, stunt work, and bravado, Cruise conveyed danger and intelligence rather than raw physicality. Ritchson, however, simply is danger in human form. 2. Age and experience. The weight of the past. Tom Cruise played a relatively young, sleek, and almost untouchable Reacher. His Reacher had a confident swagger, but there was less of the battle-worn gravitas that comes from a lifetime of military service and travel. Cruise's Reacher felt more like a superhero in a trench coat than a drifter shaped by decades of trauma, hardship, and quiet observation. Alan Ritchson brings a more grounded maturity to the role. His Reacher looks like someone who's seen the world, handled violence firsthand, and survived dangerous situations that would terrify most men. Even in still moments, Ritchson exudes the weight of experience, the kind of presence that makes a casual stare enough to settle a room. 3. Combat style. Brute force versus precision. The fight scenes in Tom Cruise's Jack Reacher lean heavily on cinematic flair. Quick cuts, choreographed acrobatics, and Cruise's smaller frame meant a lot of emphasis on speed, agility, and inventive maneuvers rather than raw power. It looks stylish, but it sometimes strains believability for readers expecting Reacher to effortlessly dominate opponents through sheer physical advantage. Ritchson's Reacher, by contrast, channels Reacher's textbook fighting style, brutal, efficient, and terrifyingly effective. With a frame built for power, his takedowns, punches, and throws feel natural, unpolished, and devastating. Watching Ritchson fight is like watching someone who could really dismantle an opponent if necessary, not just for show, but because he can. 4. Character demeanor. Cool versus calculated. Cruise's Reacher comes across as cool, charming, and occasionally wry. He's confident to the point of being playful, often making sharp quips even in tense moments. While enjoyable on screen, some fans argue that this version lacks the Reacher we know from the books, the man of few words, who sizes up a situation silently before striking. Ritchson nails Reacher's calculated calm. His Reacher isn't chatty or charming for charm's sake. He observes, analyzes, and lets his presence and action speak. Silence in Ritchson's portrayal carries weight. It conveys intelligence, threat, and moral authority. His Reacher doesn't need to tell you he's formidable. You already know. 5. Approach to justice. Pragmatic versus cinematic hero. Tom Cruise's Reacher often feels like a cinematic hero who steps in to save the day in dramatic, visually striking ways. While effective, these interventions sometimes feel choreographed for audience excitement rather than grounded in realistic decision-making. His justice is swift and satisfying, but occasionally lacks subtlety. Alan Ritchson's Reacher operates with a pragmatism that feels lifted directly from the novels. He considers consequences, observes patterns, and uses patience as a weapon. When he delivers justice, it's rarely for show, it's precise, unavoidable, and morally resonant. Ritchson's Reacher embodies the quiet menace of someone who could dismantle crime without anyone realizing it until it's too late. 6. Dialogue and voice. quips versus economy, dialogue is a subtle but crucial difference. Cruise's Reacher is occasionally verbose, using witticisms and sharp lines to define moments. While entertaining, it doesn't always match the terse, minimalistic style of Lee Child's Reacher, who often communicates more through actions and glances than words. Ritchson's delivery aligns perfectly with the novels. His lines are concise, loaded with subtext, and delivered with the kind of controlled intensity that makes every word feel deliberate. Fans of the books often describe watching him speak as reading a page of Lee Child. Every syllable matters, and every pause builds tension. 7. Connection to the setting, Wanderer versus Presence. In the Cruise films, Reacher's connection to his environment sometimes feels secondary to the plot. He's moving from city to city, solving problems with his wit and skill, but there's less of a tangible Reacher presence that commands every setting he enters. Ritchson, by contrast, makes the locations part of his character. Whether he's in a quiet diner or a back alley, his Reacher feels like a force of nature integrated into the space. He occupies the room in a way that reminds viewers why Reacher is such a legend. People notice him, tension builds around him, and the environment itself reacts to his presence. 8. Faithfulness to the books, a matter of canon. Ultimately, the biggest difference lies in fidelity to Lee Child's vision. Tom Cruise's Reacher captured the essence of cleverness, charisma, and heroism, but his physical stature and some character nuances caused a stir among die-hard fans. For those who live and breathe Reacher novels, Cruise's version felt more like a reinterpretation than a faithful adaptation. Alan Ritchson's Reacher, on the other hand, feels lifted straight from the pages. His physical appearance, demeanor, fighting style, and even the way he carries himself align with decades of reader expectations. Ritchson's casting sends a message. The showrunners wanted authenticity, and they delivered. Final thoughts. Two faces of Reacher. Tom Cruise introduced Reacher to a mainstream audience, translating the character into a cinematic hero who could carry a major franchise. He made the character accessible, stylish, and fun, even if it required some creative liberties. Cruise's Reacher is an adrenaline-fueled tour de force of charisma and cleverness, wrapped in a smaller-than-novel frame. Alan Ritchson, by contrast, caters to the fans who have waited decades to see a Reacher who looks, acts, and feels like the Reacher in their imaginations. His performance emphasizes authenticity, intensity, and physical dominance, reminding viewers that Jack Reacher is not just clever, he's a walking, unstoppable force. In the end, both portrayals serve a purpose. Cruise made Reacher approachable and entertaining for a global audience. Ritchson made him real, terrifying, and true to Lee Child's vision. For fans of the novels, Ritchson is the Reacher they always wanted, while Cruise remains the version that introduced the character to the world. The bottom line, the debate over who is the better Jack Reacher will likely continue for years, but it's clear Tom Cruise and Alan Ritchson each bring unique qualities to the role. Cruise's version is cinematic, stylish,